Hello, this is Katrina Dubry. I am an education consultant on the Empower Project at Vanderbilt University. Today, I will be discussing tips for accessibility in Microsoft Word. Currently on my screen is a document, and I am screen sharing using Zoom. My video will be off for the duration of this training. The document that I have showing will be used as a training tool in this video walkthrough on the accessibility strategies for Microsoft Word. You are very welcome to use this document as a template or a reference when you're making new materials. Please note that this demonstration and training was created on a MacBook Pro, and I will be using the screen reader VoiceOver, which is an Apple product. The topics we will be discussing today are accessibility tips, including document title, heading styles, line and paragraph spacing tool, bullets or numbering tool, alternative text and images, descriptive web links, tables, saving an accessible PDF, the accessibility checking tool. I'm also going to provide some additional resources and a reminder guide at the end. So with that being said, let's dive right in. First, let's look at adding a document title. So you want to ensure that your document has a title. This makes the document easier to find and searchable. To get started, you navigate to File within Microsoft Word, and then Properties. You'll have a pop-up that has the General tab highlighted. However, we want to navigate to Summary. And what is showing on my screen is I have filled in the title box with tips for accessibility in Microsoft Word, the author, Katrina Dubry, the company, Empower VI at Vanderbilt University, and the key words that I have included is accessibility. Now I'm going to select OK. And I have a document title. Let's move on to use of heading styles. This document is currently set up with heading styles. The accessibility tips is actually a heading level 2, and under each of the accessibility tips are heading level 3s. So we're on using heading style, and when I use my mouse to select the use heading styles text, what pops up in the styles menu is heading level 3 to let you know that that is how it is categorized. How you change heading styles is you start in the Home tab and you navigate to the Styles Gallery to view each style type. You want to organize your document headings in a logical order, just like you would a chapter book. So for example, heading level 1 should be your major topics. Heading level 2 would be the subtopics that fall under heading level 1. So in my document, I've made heading level 1 actually the title of the document, which is Tips for Accessibility in Microsoft Word. Then heading level 2 is accessibility tips, and my heading level 3s are all the accessibility tips that fall under that. Let me show you what this looks like in a rotor menu for VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on Word, tips for...
All right, I'm going to use Control, Option, and the letter U on my keyboard.
Heading menu. On item, tips for accessibility in Microsoft Word.
All right, and so what is showing on my screen is the rotor menu under headings for my document. When I navigate with my arrow key, my down arrow key to go through each heading, it is going to explain what the headers are in this document. Now, what makes this handy is I can navigate to specific headings very easily. So I'm going to listen to my screen reader, and I'm going to go ahead and jump to use heading styles.
Objective. Accessibility tips. Add document title. Use heading styles.
And I'm going to select Enter or Return.
Page 2. Use heading styles.
All right, and now I'm in Use Heading Styles. I'm going to turn VoiceOver off for a bit.
VoiceOver off.
And now I'm going to navigate to the next accessibility tip, which is use of the line and paragraph spacing tool. Now, this is such a great tool to help you create space in a document without creating unnecessary empty space that might be read by a screen reader as blank or empty group. So it's often recommended that when you need to create space in a document, you use this versatile tool instead of hitting enter multiple times. So let's talk about how to use the tool. Again, you're going to start in your Home tab and you're going to navigate to the formatting section and you're going to listen for or look for the line and paragraph spacing tool. Right now, I'm using my mouse to activate the drop-down menu. And what's appearing are going to be different line spacing options. So 1.0 for single space, 1.15 for a little bit more spacing between sentences. What I'm going to go on and go down to is there is an option for remove space before paragraph, add space after paragraph. This is such a handy tool if you have a heading and you want to organize your document so there's a space between your heading and the paragraph information. Also, you can click on or select line spacing options, and you can go into the pop-up paragraph menu, and some of the elements here are general, including how you align your document, whether you want it left justified, right justified, your indents, how far or close your words or your text starts, close to the barriers of the document. And then spacing. When you go to spacing, you can indicate how many points you want before the text, after the text. And this can be so helpful when you are creating a document that needs visual spacing for those to be able with visual acuity to take in the information. So I'm going to select OK. But one of the things that I have done in my document is anytime that I had an image, so that my image did not so closely fit next to the following text, I always added a space after paragraph. So that's an example of how I use this tool. Now let's talk a little bit about using bullets or numbering tool. If you have to convey information in a list format, it is recommended that you use the bullet or numbering tool. Screen readers will actually notify users when they are entering a bulleted list or numbering list. So let me give you an example. I'm going to turn on my screen reader.
Voiceover on Word.
And I'm going to go to my rotor menu and I'm going to navigate to headings and I'm going to go to the one that talks about bullets.
On item, tips for accessibility in object, access, add document, use headings, use the line and paragraph spacing tool, use the bullets or numbering tool. Page 2 content. Page 2 of 7. Edit text, insertion at beginning of word, use heading styles. Headings help users to. Page 2. Use the bullets or numbering tool. Use the bullets or numbering tool to create lists. Screen readers, bulleted or numbered list.
Okay, I'm going to have it read all with Control Option A, and I want you to listen. It's going to let you know when we've entered and when we've exited a bulleted list.
Entered list. Start in the Home tab. Navigate to the bullets or numbering tool. You can use the line and paragraph spacing tool to create space between bullets. Please note that it's best practice to avoid a bulleted list with only one item. Exited list. Ensure image.
All right, so hopefully you heard where it told us that we had a bulleted element and it let us know when we were going into that bulleted list and when we were exiting.
Voiceover off.
All right, I turned voiceover off. Now we're going to talk about ensuring images have alternative text. So for the users that are following along visually, there have been a few visual pictures in this document that I have described verbally. But I want to talk through how to ensure that your images have alternative text. It's important that you know that images do not come in a format that is screen reader accessible. You must add in alternative text. So you navigate to the image you would like to add alternative text to. You're going to right click. Now the keyboard command for right click on a Mac is Shift plus FN for function plus F10. And then you're going to select View Alt Text. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate up to one of the images that I have in my document. I'm right clicking. I'm selecting View Alt Text. And the description, this is for the image that I have under the line spacing options. My alt text reads, screenshot of the drop-down options under line and paragraph spacing tool. This includes a list of different line heights, line spacing options, add space before paragraph, and remove space after paragraph. So what I'm conveying is, because there is text within the image that isn't otherwise described, I'm making sure that users who are using a screen reader get the important content within that image. So as I navigate through the document with a screen reader, the image description is what is going to be read. Now, if you have just an image in the document that has no contextual reference or important information, it's more just for decoration, you can, in this same alt text area, there is a selection that you can navigate to called Mark as Decorative, and you can select that checkbox. All right, I'm exiting out of the alt text pop-up box. And I want to also just emphasize that it is very important that you don't hide information within your images, so you may need to ensure that important content that is conveyed in images is also included in the document text. All right, now we're going to move to descriptive links. So screen readers will read web links exactly as they are listed. So it's very important that you create a descriptive hyperlink title, which helps users to understand where it is that the link is taking them. Now I want to show you something with the rotor menu with my screen reader.
Voiceover on Word, heading menu. On item tips.
So we're currently in the heading menu of my rotor menu, but I'm going to navigate until I hear links.
Window spots link menu. On item tips.
So I'm on the link menu. Now the links that are popping up for me, they're going to appear later in this document, but I have
Scroll area.
WebAIM contrast checker,
Scroll area.
WebAIM typefaces and fonts,
Scroll area.
and making your Word documents accessible.
Screenshot of the drop-down option. On item tips for accessibility in scroll area.
So what I'm going to do is
menu.
I'm going to take us down to the WebAIM contrast checker. I'm going to visibly take us down there. Give me just one moment. Now, typically the screen reader is going to read these web links as they are listed here. I'm just experiencing some technical difficulties. Just one moment.
Screenshot of the drop-down options underline and voiceover off.
So I'm going to scroll down to additional resources because this is where I feature some of my descriptive links. So I have, as mentioned, WebAIM contrast checker. How this currently appears is it is in a different color. It is in a blue colored font and it is underlined. It is very important that when you are including website links that you use a different yet contrast accessible color so that they stand out, and that is a good time to use the underline, which a lot of times when you enter a web link into a document, it is going to automatically underline it and it's automatically going to change its color. So let's walk through some of the steps to ensure that a hyperlink is made into descriptive text. So I'm going to right click on the hyperlink and I'm going to select hyperlink, edit hyperlink. And this pops up the edit hyperlink pop-up box. Now, text to display is at the top of this box and I put in WebAIM contrast checker. Currently, it's on the tab that's web page or file, and it says link to an existing file or web page, and the actual address, the link address, is written in the address area. Now, that's going to be your full HTTPS web link, but what is happening is the text displaying is only WebAIM contrast checker. Now that makes it so much easier as a screen reader user is navigating through links to hear the descriptive link instead of the HTTPS. So let me show you an example. To leave this edit hyperlink menu, I'm going to select OK. And now I'm going to go into my screen reader.
Voiceover on Word.
I'm going to go into my rotor menu and go to links.
Link menu. On item, https://WebAIM, misspelled window, heading menu. On item.
And I'm actually going to go back into heading and I'm going to go down to descriptive links. So I can go into the descriptive links section. No, actually, I'm going to go to additional resources.
Dictate additional resources. Page 6. Additional resources. Page 6. Additional resources.
And I want you to listen in on how the screen reader reads this next section.
Entered list. Color contrast checker. Link misspelled. Web aim. Contrast checker. Font guidelines. Link misspelled. Web aim. Typefaces and fonts.
So what you'll notice, it does say misspelled, but that's just because WebAIM is how you spell WebAIM, but Microsoft Word does not recognize that. But you notice, first of all, that we went into a bulleted list and that it indicated that it was a link and it read to you the link.
Voiceover off.
All right, I'm going to scroll back up to the section on descriptive links. Again, I right-clicked in order to select hyperlink and edit hyperlink, but I do want to indicate that the keyboard commands are Shift plus FN plus F10. Ensure that your web address is correct before you select OK to exit the menu. And as I said before, ensure your link is a different color from the body of text. And that'll make it so much easier to find the link, listen to the link, and also navigate through the document. This is for a variety of users, whether screen reader or not. The next section is going to be tables. So I need you all to know that in general, tables are not recommended to be used in Microsoft Word. They should be avoided. You should absolutely avoid nested tables, merged, split, or blank cells. This is very difficult and sometimes not possible to read correctly with a screen reader. However, I will say simple tables can be a helpful way to organize information, especially when used in a read-only or PDF document. So what I have here is just a small table that I created, and it's conveying letter grade and number score. So I want to walk through how I set up this table first, and then I'm going to take a stab at it with my screen reader. So the first step is you need to highlight or select the first row of the table. So I'm highlighting or selecting the first row of the table, and this is including the row that has letter grade and number score, those two columns. And this first row, again, letter grade, number score. And I'm going to right click, and again, that's Shift plus FN plus F10, but I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select Table Properties, and I'm automatically in the Row tab of the Table Properties pop-out menu. And this is important. So it explains different things like, your row 1, the size, but we're going to options. Now, options say allow row to break across pages. All accessibility guidelines say to uncheck that box because you do not want your rows to break across pages. And this is very important. Check this box, which is repeat as header row at the top of each page. All right, I'm going to select OK to exit this pop-up menu. The reason it's so important to select the repeating row header is as the screen reader is navigating through this table and it's indicating the letter grade and the score, it's hard to kind of keep track with what column you're in, what row you're in, and so that helps it a great deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my screen reader again.
Voiceover on Word. Tips for accessible heading menu. On Windows spot link menu. Table menu. Table, 4 rows, 2 columns, grade conversion table, no selection table, 4 rows, 2 columns, grade convert in, letter grade, table, 4 rows, 2 columns.
All right, so I'm in the table and I'm going to listen to how this sounds.
Number score, letter grade, A. You are currently on a cell.
So if you heard that, I navigated into the second row and it said A, but before it said A, it let me know that I was in the letter grade column. So have a listen.
Number score, 90 to 100. Letter grade, B. Number score, 80 to 90. Letter grade, C. Number score, 70 to 80. You are currently on a cell. To navigate, voiceover off.
So that's an example of why it's so important to make sure that you set up your tables correctly. All right. The other thing that you can do and that you need to do in a table is you want to make sure that your table has a title. So you're going to go to the tables property menu. So again, I'm going to right click. I'm on the first row of my table and I right clicked table properties. As I mentioned, you're going to end up in row, but I'm actually going to navigate over to the alt text tab of the table properties pop-up. And the title of this is grade conversion table. And my description is this table explains how each letter grade corresponds with a numbered score. So I'm going to hit OK to get out of this menu, but it's also very important when you set up a table that you give it an appropriate title and you give it alt text because that is what the screen reader is going to read when it initially encounters it. All right, on to our next area. Saving an accessible PDF. So the steps you have taken so far to make this document accessible should carry over to a PDF format as long as you save the document correctly. You can also choose the option of read only in Word, which is through doing File, and then you select Always Open Read Only. But just be aware that there are some content boxes that do not work in Read Only. But if you just have a text version, for example, this document I've created today, it works really well in Read Only. The spelling errors that we encountered earlier, those would not be notified in the read-only version, and you can still navigate through the headings in that setup. So, saving as an accessible PDF. Let's talk about how to do this. Well, first, you want to navigate to Microsoft Word's File, and then Save As. In the File Format section of the pop-up box, so you'll have to navigate down, but in the File Format section, currently it's showing as Microsoft Word document, so in parentheses it's .docx. There's a drop-down menu and I can select PDF in my file format section. And there are two things that pop up. It says one of the choices, the choices that you can select are best for electronic distribution and accessibility, uses Microsoft Online Service. That is the one you want to select. The other option is best for printing, but best for printing is not good for screen readers. So always ensure when you are saving a document as PDF that you're selecting best for electronic distribution and accessibility. All right, and what I would normally do then is hit export, and that would help me save it as a PDF. Also in this section, I have Save As, and I'm saving as tips for accessibility in Microsoft Word. Tags are very important too. They can help you find a document more easily. So as I've been speaking, I actually added the tag accessibility. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this menu. The last item that I want to cover with you all for the basics of accessibility in Word is using the Accessibility Checker tool. Check Accessibility is located under the Review tab, so I'm going to navigate us there. So we have been in the Home tab quite a bit, but if I scroll over and I go to the Review tab, this is where you're going to find the Check Accessibility option. So I'm going to click on Check Accessibility, and a pop-up menu says no accessibility issues found. And it says people with disabilities should not have difficulty reading this document. So of course, that is the goal that you want of any accessibility checker. But I want to emphasize that the accessibility checker cannot catch everything. There are things that you will be responsible for and that you need to spot check. For example, the quality of alternative text. Sometimes alternative text for images is automatically generated. It may not be of good quality. It's important that you spot check that. Empty spaces in a document that might end up reading as blank blank on a screen reader, the accessibility checker isn't going to pick that up. And then the logical order of your headings, those are things that you need to spot check as well. So each element that I've described today, it's important that you give that a review yourself. But I will say that the accessibility checker can help with items like color contrast, missing alternative text, unclear hyperlink text, content conveyed only by color or underline, because you never in a document want to only convey information with color or underline, because again, screen reader users then won't have the same access to that information. Font size and type, I want you to know that sans serif is recommended. And what that means is it doesn't have loops and cursive-like shapes, which make it very hard for some technology to decipher. And another thing that the accessibility checker does is it helps with object descriptions and makes sure that things are in line with text placement. So what that means, for example, say that you've added an image into your document. It may be good, it may be nice when you're designing something for visual purposes to have that image, maybe in the background or something like that, but just know that it needs to be in line with text in order to be screen reader accessible. If you had an issue, the accessibility checker would identify what the issue was, where it is, and it'll give you some tips on how to fix that. Some additional resources I wanted to make sure we went over. We sort of got a preview with this a little bit, but color contrast is very important. So for example, I mentioned WebAIM contrast checker. Currently, my document has a white background. The general font size is just a standard black, but the link WebAIM contrast checker is a blue color. And what I did is I went to the WebAIM contrast checker website, and I was able to use tools on that website to actually compare the color of blue against the white background. And I verified that this meets color contrast criteria. You can also use WebAIM to ensure that you have good choices for your typefaces and your fonts. Also, VoiceOver Screen Reader, what I've been using a couple of times on this document, that comes with MacBook or Apple. On your MacBook, it's under System Settings, Accessibility, and VoiceOver Training. This is a great tool to get started with if you're an Apple user, so that you can actually test out, what is my document like with a screen reader? Also, additional Microsoft Word accessibility, I have linked the website that is Make Your Word Documents Accessible from Microsoft Support. My training here went into a little bit more detail, but that is a great reference for you. Now I'm scrolling to the very bottom of my document, and this is an accessibility in Microsoft Word reminder list. So you can use this list as you create Microsoft Word documents to ensure adherence to the accessibility best practices. And what I have done is I have just made a list of all the different accessibility tips that we outlined today, in a quick reference guide for your use. So thank you so much for joining me for training today. I will be doing this training live as well. If you have any questions, again, this is Katrina Dubry, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.